Delhi-based journalist has alleged that she was harassed in an auto rickshaw by an auto driver. The journalist has shared her ordeal on social media, claiming that the driver was looking at her in an inappropriate manner during her commute, adding that despite her warnings, the driver showed no sign of restraint, rather dared the lady to go ahead and complain. DCW Chief Swati Maliwal has taken cognizance of the matter and has issued a notice to Uber India and to the Delhi police. In fact, we have with us here on the program the lady who reported the case. Her name is Arfa Javed. She's a Delhi-based journalist. She's with us on the program right now. Very good evening, Arfa. I want to begin by asking you, what support and assistance did you get from Uber? It's very important that these cab aggregators are operating in this country. They must have a system in place to ensure that rogue elements do not operate under their banner. What kind of support did you get from the cab aggregator and from law enforcement when you went to complain?
Okay, so when I contacted Uber, I tagged them on Twitter and I wrote my ordeal online, and they said like they just gave me a very standard reply. Okay, we are looking into the matter, we are investigating. They asked for the details of the ride and everything, and then they disappeared. They didn't call me back or did nothing about it. They called me a day later after things gone viral. So I'm not very impressed with the way they have contacted me, and they just recorded a statement online. They have not assured me whether they'll debar the auto driver or what actions they'll take. They just promise they'll take some actions, but I'm not very sure what kind of actions they'll take.
Yes, that's unfortunate, because the fact of the matter is Uber has no business to have these kind of elements operating under their banner. Far from being civil or courteous, that is not even expected of them. They have the audacity to misbehave with women. And working women like yourself, Arfa, since you're a journalist, would you say that we have a long way to go when it comes to safe public spaces? Buses are not safe, metros, stations are not safe enough, auto rickshaws also, which is supposed to be an open-ended vehicle, even there a woman is not really safe.
So I will not say that my story is every woman's story, but I feel most women go through similar experiences or more heinous experiences, I would say, on a daily basis. Sometimes they can even go multiple times a day. And they can face it. I cannot say on behalf of every woman, but yeah, most of them have gone through similar experiences, have faced similar things. And I say it by my personal experience as well, that what my friends or acquaintances have shared with me.
Yes.
Like, they don't report the issues don't get reported.
That is very brave of you.
Complaints.
Exactly. And since you're a journalist, it just so happened that you happen to be a journalist. And, you and me, of course, will report. We are empowered women. We know who to go to. We know how to report these things. We know how to demand action. And in a way, because it was you, this incident has got reported. What I was trying to ask you is, this must be rampant. And there must not be enough women with your kind of courage or your kind of determination to set things in order, because it is not about you. It's only about you, I mean to say. It's about, operating in public spaces for working women who have to use public transport. Arfa Javed, thank you so much for joining us here on the program. I'm going to broaden the horizon now and go to our panelists as well. Let me thank Arfa again for joining us and sharing her ordeal with us. So let me now go across to Sonika Aaron, founder of Marching Sheep. Joining us here on the program is also Shamina Shafiq, former member of the NCW. Beginning with, very good evening, ladies. Thanks for joining me here on Mirror Now. So basically what we just heard is one ordeal. There's been multiple such instances, and we are running those pictures, those videos as well. of how difficult it is for women to operate in metro cities, that where these public transport, you have a situation of them being infested with these kind of elements who probably on a regular basis resort to some sort of a sexual misconduct or the other, because it's perhaps that rampant. Only because of that we see such a huge propensity of such cases. As a recruiter, Sonika Aaron, is it a far cry really to make public transport and public spaces safe? Why are women so vulnerable? Disha app, for example, we had a case recently. On paper, supposed to be something where a person can report a complaint and action is supposed to be taken, but you must be aware of what happened to a lady called Pavitra, who reported her the consistent threats she received from a former boyfriend. The girl was actually stabbed to death. So I'm trying to say that there is no system in place. A culture has set in, and that makes it very difficult for working women to operate.
Right. So thank you, Afrida, for having us here. And first of all, kudos to Arfa for sharing and reporting. I think nobody should go through it. No woman should go through it. No person should go through it. Any person who finds themselves vulnerable, and any other person who finds themselves in a position to intimidate, humiliate, molest, should not be allowed to take advantage. So completely with you on that. Just a small correction. I am not a recruiter. I'm an HR consultant. Coming back to your question, I think the larger issue that we need to address is actually the current state of the society that we are in, where it seems that people who seem to intimidate, who seem to carry out inappropriate and sometimes extremely inappropriate actions, believe that they can get away with it. Arfa spoke about that many times. Cases are not reported. And it is true, cases are not reported. And we need to understand that we operate in the larger context of a society where there is also this belief that when we as women step out, safety is still a major concern. I travel 20 days a month, Afrida, and when I land back late, or I leave very early in the morning to catch an early morning flight, honestly, I am scared. I have a daughter. She's growing up. She wants to go and play alone. I am not allowing her to go and play alone because I am scared. Living in a city where I have grown up, in a country which I call my own, I am scared. It is not a good place to be in. Now, why does this happen? It is not that you called out the Disha app. Arfa spoke about, I was reading that, she tried to reach the safety app. She tried to reach out for support. Why is it that networks don't work? Why is it that when we reach out for help doesn't reach on time? Why is it that people don't reach on time when somebody needs help? And I think we need to really question the current state of society, the apathy with which we look at sexual misconduct.
Yes, which is why we wanted to dedicate this segment of this program to this issue, because it's simply not okay that nobody will talk about it. Samina Shafiq, I want to ask you that every time something happens, a new policy comes in, more CCTVs are installed, a new app comes in, and yet again it happens. The point of the matter is, here are cab aggregators. They are hiring people, all kinds of people have infiltrated into the system. And there is no check, there are no checks and balances. I have a lot of personal experiences as well with unscrupulous drivers. You don't feel comfortable sitting in a confined space with those individuals. But how are we addressing this? How are we correcting this? There is a DCW, there is an NCW, there are so many other commissions, Women and Child Development Ministries, but yet this happens again and again.
I'm really sorry to say this, Afrida, but the fact of the matter remains that the situation will unfortunately seem to be, I mean, in the same scenario for ages, for years, and it'll. I feel hopeless to say this, but unfortunately, I feel that this will continue forever and ever. You know why? Because there were a lot of questions, whys that were asked by Sonika. And the answers are because women are not a priority as of now in this country. And that is why when we see there are certain actions or certain mechanisms which are in place, whether you talk about CCTVs, whether you talk about bus marshals that are being spoken about during elections, whether you talk about, all sorts of apps, whether you talk about anything for that matter, why it doesn't work? It doesn't work because the system has failed all the women in this country. There are no audits. I mean, cameras are in place, but are they working? Does anybody check them? No, no one even bothers to check them. The apps, the networks, is it working?
Yes.
Nobody bothers. In fact, the moment you talk about women's safety, there are going to be 10 men telling us that, oh, you carry a pepper spray, you learn some martial art. That means you need to defend yourself. We are not going to protect you. We are not going to ensure. We don't even want protection. Give us some sanity on the roads. Give us some basic amenities on the roads in public spaces, but that also the system has failed. When you talk about the commissions, I would really want to talk about it. State Women Commission and the National Commission for Women, their job is to ensure that women interests are being taken care of. But unfortunately, I hate to say this, even the commissions as of now, I mean, I feel proud that after during our tenure, after the Justice Verma Committee's recommendation, we were actually very rigorously following it up on the grounds with all the departments, all the states, to ensure that all the actions are taken and they are actually in continuity. That means sustainability of the program is extremely important. But I hate to say this, in the past 7 years or 8 years, I have seen that only knee-jerk reaction, only even Swati Maliwal, where you're talking, the DCW has taken some cognizance. Why they have to wait for any incidents to happen and then take cognizance? And I mean, that is routine. Something has happened, you ask the police why this happened, what are you doing? Come on, I mean, we need to get away with this. What are you doing to ensure that the mechanisms are working? This is the
Right.
job of commissions. And that is why these commissions have failed. Even the police department, I mean, they feel that, okay, now we have women in the police thana, we have done our job. No, I'm sorry. You need to continuously, rigorously talk to them. And the most important thing, are we doing something substantial
Because
enough
we
to
need to fix accountability and there must be strong deterrent action. It's
Yes.
not
No,
lost on
one last
anyone
thing.
that there
One
is no
last
fear of punishment,
So
isn't
one
it? Yes,
last thing,
carry
you
on.
know what? This is something which is okay. I mean, we are talking about adults or the perpetrators who are there on the roads. But are we doing any corrective measures to ensure that our young mind, the small children, they are educated as to how to respect women in their surroundings? Are we having curriculums? Look at the education policy. We are doing current GK, moral science. Are we even talking about health? Are
Okay,
we even
so
talking about
systemic
gender?
changes right from the education policy, a lot of things that are long term also needs to be done. A very valid point, Shamina Shafiq. I have a caller, Dr. Rajid Kishan from Bengaluru. Dr. Rajid, good evening. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, look, I believe prevention is better than cure. I believe prevention is better than cure. And I believe that we need to have sex education in schools. I'm an educationalist and I own my own school. And just last week, every year we have sex education for children from 7th to 10th standard, that is 12 to 15-year-olds, about health and hygiene and how to respect the opposite sex. And it's really important because, those are the formative years. And then they need to have sex education in pre-university when they are 16, 17, and 18 as well. And that's very important. Now, the second aspect of it is roads are unsafe for males and females today. I've been mugged twice in 2012 when I walked back from MG Road to my house. and 500 meters from my house, I've been robbed on 2 occasions. So roads are unsafe for men and women. And so we have to now take
No, this is a case of a
measures to
sexual
protect ourselves.
misconduct. There are details that Arfa Javed has put out on social media. It's a very, very uncomfortable situation. What it does is, it is demotivating, of course, for the woman. And it also, on a larger context, it sets such a wrong precedence for those parents who want to send their daughters to these big cities, would say, nahi, wahan pe ye hota hai. So it sets us back, you know. Every such incident sets us back. That's very, very unfortunate. Let's not mix up and say it happens with both genders. I'm sorry. My problem is also that I have individually faced these circumstances. I have faced a situation where you call an emergency number, which is there in these apps. They tell you after a point, they say, okay, you contact customer care. So these emergency numbers, safety buttons, none of it actually is fully effective. It's a huge problem, Sonika ji. Isn't that the feedback that you would have got from working women? These apps, these emergency safety helplines also are not effective. It's just done as optics, just tokenism.
So honestly, I have not yet received any such feedback, but I have also experienced that when you immediately call, for example, um, uh, try to reach out in the middle of the night, for example, if you try to reach, sometimes help is just not available. So because I have not heard, I am unable to comment. But having said that, uh, I do agree with you that there needs to be a robust, fail-proof process where, should a situation come up, a woman in any cab of any company should have immediate access to help, to support, so that no untoward incident happens. Now, this was an auto where she could have jumped off, she left. Now, imagine what would have happened if it was a closed car, it was a closed cab. I shudder to think.
Right.
What if it
Quick
was late
last
night?
word, Shamina Shafiq, quick last word to you. You know, this is a country where we don't yet have the women's reservation bill passed. Women have to be in decision making, in policy making positions to, you know, really bring in some strong changes in the way we are setting up a monitoring mechanism, and the fact that this fear of punishment has to come in. Otherwise, this will just go on. Your thoughts on that, Ms. Shafiq?
Yeah, certainly. But you know what? I mean, it feels good to talk about that women reservation bill is going to be passed. We'll have more women in the parliament and in the Vidhan Sabhas, and then maybe our issues are going to be addressed. But unfortunately, the number of women that we have right now in the parliament or in the Vidhan Sabhas, still our problems go unaddressed. We don't see women parliamentarians for most of them. I would not say everyone, but most of the women parliamentarians, especially those in power, they don't speak a word about women or their issues. So I don't think so. You know what? I think time has come when the organizations which are working for women's, the media who are serious and who are really concerned about these issues, and of course the politicians, all those who are concerned about the issues, we need to come down to something very tangible and something which is quick. When we talk about technology, I mean, you're talking about technology which can fail us even in Delhi. Imagine about a girl living in Barabanki or somewhere in the a remote corner of this country. So what happens there? So technology is not the thing. Actually, you know what? The first and the foremost thing is publicity of the laws and ensuring that it reaches to every person who is even a perpetrator, that he knows that if you do this, the consequences, you are going to be facing it.
Okay.
If a pack of
Okay.
cigarettes have that a statutory warning that it is harmful for your health, why can't we have such billboards and hoardings and
Right.
radio
And I would
advertisements?
add to that and say, let these companies who are operating as cab aggregators also
It should be.
ensure that they follow certain best practices that other countries follow, and bring us safer public transport. It's the bare minimum, I think, that we ask for as citizens. Thank you so much, Shamina Shafiq and Sonika Arun, for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Well, let's take a short break here, and when we come back, it's not just journalists facing this kind of a violation.